Hey mages, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be looking at 5 new 0 rare decks that I put together. These decks have literally no rares, no mythic rares, all full of common and uncommon cards. So great for new players, great for budget players, and great for if you just want to try something different. Maybe just do your dailies if you have a colour there that you haven't got a deck made of, but this is a cheap way to do it. Or like a lot of other people do, they take them to the rank ladder and then see how far they can get. Now I do have some optional upgrades for each of the decks as well, so make sure you stay around for them as well. And without further ado, let's get looking at today's decks. So if I could ask you a big favour before you get into the video, we currently have about 85% of people that aren't subscribed that are watching the videos. So if you could hit that subscribe button, it really would help out. And liking really helps as well, push the videos out and leave me a comment. But here it is today. Dimir Caves is the first 0 rare deck that we're going to be playing. I know how much of you on the channel that have been watching the previous videos love Caves decks, and this is a different type of Caves deck. This is one with 2 colours, where the usual one we're playing with is multiple colours. So it still runs the Cave lands, which is what it's all about. The best one in the deck is Cavernous Moor. This will turn into a 3/3 creature. Activate it only if the number of caves you control plus the number of cave cards is greater than 3. Now, as you can see, we do run a lot of caves here. We got 7, 11, 14 caves in total in the deck, so plenty of ways to turn this on and turn it into a big beater. We have cards that are built around, obviously, caves in the deck. This has a more control kind of aspect to it, where you've got removal and everything like that, which is what Dimir does really well. Gargantuan Leech is the big beater. This can come down obviously a lot earlier. This is a 7 and 1 black 5/5 lifelinker that costs 1 less to cast for each cave you control and each cave card in your graveyard. So this turns out to be something really good. This other one, Monstrous War Leech, enters the battlefield if it was kicked mill full cards. Its power and toughness are equal to the highest mana value among cards in your graveyard. So potentially, if you deal mill your Gargantuan Leech, this then becomes an 8/8, which is absolutely such another beater as well. So it gives you the opportunity to maybe, if this does go in there, you're not going to be too worried because it could potentially leave you with an 8/8. Both of these are really good beaters though, along with the Cavernous Moor that can get some stuff in as well. Also in the deck, Nightclubber. Just as a 2-of, we can blitz this in. This is really good against the aggro decks like the mono whites, the mono blues, anything like that. The mono blue aggro deck or the mono white. Gives the creatures -1/1 to end of turn, so either can shrink them down or it can just obliterate loads of tokens from Wedding Invitation or something like that. But it's just another good card that can help with the deck as well. More removal in the deck in form of this sorcery, Glistening Deluge. Good against the green and white decks, especially all creatures get -1 to end of turn. Creatures that are green or white, though, get an additional -2/2. And when you look at our creatures, obviously our creatures are pretty big, so they're going to be pretty safe from that. The -1/1s and stuff like that as well. But this is another one that I just found very helpful at the moment, battling those sort of aggro decks. And, the enchantment deck as well, because the green and white cards like Jukai Naturalist that are, hard, and once they start kicking off that enchantment deck. But this can help in that if we don't manage to kill them with our other removal like Cut Down. We've also got Bitter Triumph, which is the best uncommon removal for us budget players at the moment. Discard a card or pay a 3 life. We can discard cards, to make this better if we can. And then we've got Death Cap Marionette. Another way to Death Touch, so a great blocker. Acts as removal as well, because you can just block anything and potentially kill it. And this happens as well, where you may also mill 2 cards. So with the milling and then Thirst of Discovery to discard then as well, this is another way to make your Monstrous War Leech, potentially bigger if we can, with the Gargantuans in there. So lots of synergy in this deck, lots of, typical Dimir type of deck with removal, card draw like Consider, Chart the Course as well, and then Thirst for Discovery. So plenty of ways to go through the deck. Added in a bit of counter spell magic with Make Disappear, and then lots of removal, then acting like a controlled it does and having the big beaters at the end, potentially hopefully to get you the win. If we have a look at the stats here, it is a 14 creature deck with 22 non-creatures, a CMC of 2.9, so we're running the 24 lands in this deck as well. Land based, like I said, lots of good uncommon and common caves and everything like that, and then we have some basics and some dismal backwater as well. I didn't call it backwash there because we always called it that as a joke sometimes. Dismal backwater. So let's take a look at some potential upgrades for this. Now, there isn't many for this one because you know, it's a thematic deck of caves, so you can add in some better caves like Sunken Citadel, maybe taking away some of the basics is what I would do for this, and you have Echoing Deeps as well. So I would drop down some of the basics for this, but not too many, because you do need the colours for it, which is what you do need. This can come in though, we can enter to choose a colour, so this one will really help with that. Shipwreck Marsh will be a good upgrade as well to Dismal Backwater if you've got it. Just a slightly better land. This can enter tapped unless you control 2 or more other lands, but I wouldn't put you off keeping the backwater in there because it does gain a bit of life as well. But this is just a suggestion for you. The one card that I think would be very good in the deck because of the amount of removal that this deck does have. So you're putting stuff into opponents' graveyards. Virtual Persistence to me would be a really good upgrade. It has the removal in the Scorn, so you can kill something, gain a bit of life, and then late game this just adds another wink onto the deck. So I think this one would be very good addition to the deck as well. Well, let's get on to the next deck. So you have to excuse my voice there. A lot of you know, seen from the post, I've been pretty ill, so my voice is a little bit different. You know why today. The next video, see what I mean? I can't say what I meant to say. The next deck is 0 rare Vampires. So this is a Vampire Tribal deck. It has a total of 28 creatures in there, which is, quite high, but all 28 of them are vampires as well, as you can see from over here. 2.1 CMC average with 22 lands with this, and a few instants and sorceries as well. But this is a deck that, is the synergy of this is all the creatures. They're all vampires, and they all have different interactions with each other as well. The good land that we will add into this, I'll go to the lands first, is Secluded Courtyard. It's an uncommon, so we get to choose a creature type, and obviously that will be vampire. Then spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type. Now, Arena sometimes has made, been a bit awkward sometimes for me because this doesn't run many instants of sorcery. For some reason, it keeps giving me these. It's just what Arena does sometimes. So then I've not been able to cast my other spells, but don't worry about that. If that happens, it's just, Arena being Arena sometimes. We have Bloodfilled Caves in there, and then we have the basics as well. So, a very good land base for this deck. But let's get on to looking at the creatures first. One of the best creatures in there is Markov Baron, because it gives your creatures can help cast a spell. It gives a Convoke, which is really good, has lifelink, and gives the other vampires a buff as well. Gives them all +1/1. Non-legendary, so we can put multiples of these on the field as well. Also as Madness, you can discard this card, and when you do, cast it for its mana cost and put it into your graveyard. But we're looking to just get this onto the battlefield really and just pump up our other creatures. One that I really do like is Vampire Socialite. This has Menace 2/2 for just the Rakdos colours, and when it ends the battlefield, if an opponent lost life this turn, put a 1/1 counter on each vampire you control. As long as your opponent lost life this turn, each other vampire you control ends the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter as well. So always remember to attack first before you play this, or do some damage if you can, just by playing like a Vidalcan Epicure. That would do 1 damage to opponent when it comes in, and then everything will get the counters, and anything coming in will get the counters as well. So important to remember that when you're doing, playing this deck. Alcatraz as well, another way, sacrifice another creature, each opponent loses a life and you gain 1 life, so another way to trigger the Socialite as well. And once you've played your Epicures and stuff like that, you can obviously just sack them for wins, or just, we do have a sack effect in this deck. If you can sack the Hungry for More token, create a 3/1 black-red token with trample, lifelink and haste, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step if you can as well. So this is flashback, so we can get back in and do this again. With the Baron on the field though, these 3/1 tokens obviously become 4/2, could become 5/3 if we've got multiples on the field. So they really do give that life swing for us. The trample's good, and getting for some big attacks with this. It's a really cool combination of cards, this. We have a regular that we always see, Blood Types Harvester, good vampire, makes blood tokens in the deck, good stats. And then Bartolomeo, this can sacrifice another creature or artifacts. We're making blood tokens. We can make this really, really big, and another potential big swinging wing vampire in the deck as well. Ichor Drinker, little 1/1 lifelink, but we can exile it and make an incubate token to have another 2/2 on the field, another sackable thing as well. Another than that, we just have some really good removal. We got Volt Surge, a couple of these in the deck. Sacrifice the artifact, does 4 damage, which is good if we need to do anything a bit bigger. We make enough blood tokens in the deck to do that. Bitter Triumph, again, the all-star for us budget players, straight in there as a 2/of, and then a much-needed Witchstalker Frenzy to take on Sheoldreds and everything like that. Attacking in, putting up your stops before you attack, before blockers come in, and then killing that big creature potentially, and then getting in for your attacks is a good way to do it. And this is really, you know, you need this for the Shieldred decks and stuff like that, because Shieldred really does stop and just completely obliterate some decks if you can't get rid of it. So a more creature heavy deck, little pieces of removal. Not so much removal, but you know, if you find like you do need more, there's space in the creatures to drop down a little bit, but you know, you're really setting yourself up to go against the Wrath sort of decks where you can just keep replenishing your battlefield and just keep attacking him. So let's have a look at the potential upgrades in this. We've got some really good rare creatures in here. Voldaren Bloodcaster is a great upgrade. This one, 2/1 flyer, because evasion can flip into the summoner. When another non-token creature you control dies, you create blood tokens. If you control 5 or more blood tokens, we've got other ways to make blood tokens as well. You can transform into the summoner, and that's just a really good creature. Up to 1 target blood token you control becomes a 2/2 bat flying with haste, so good evasion and makes more creatures. Preacher of the Schism, Death Touch 2/4. I love this card. It's one of the new ones from the latest set. When it attacks for the player with the most life or time, so if you create a vampire token. Now, obviously, with the Vampire Baron there, you can just, you know, they're going to be bigger, which makes it really, really good. And another way to draw cards and lose life. Dominating Vampire. Enters, gain control of a target creature, mana value less than or equal to the number of vampires you control. We've got so many vampires. We could steal like a big dinosaur. We could steal the Shieldred. We can do anything like that if we can. Then you've got cards like Obnicholas that just works, you know, obviously not vampire related, but just works very well. This makes Demon Devils, but it's another good way to drain and gain, which is good. And we can sacrifice, you know, creatures easily this to make copies. We've got the Epicure, the Ichor Drinker, anything like that we can sack and then make multiples of these on the field. So these are 4 cards that I think of any number will be very good to go into the deck. Just make adjustments, you know, hungry for more, could possibly go for some of the more of the creatures. This is great in this budget version, but it could be one that you could definitely swap out for that. Maybe Ichor Drinker could drop down as well, you know, just to make space for these really good cards. That is my suggestion for this really cool vampire deck. Now we have a mono blue deck, but not mono blue as we usually see it with the heavily counters. This is a mono blue artifact deck. This is a really cool deck. Aggro deck, 26 creatures for a mono blue deck. That's just really weird to hear, isn't it? 24 of them are artifacts as well. We've got 24 artifacts in the field, 12 non-creatures, a very low CMC of 1.8 as well. So we're going with still the 22 lands for this. So this is another synergistic deck, very much like the vampires. Lots of really cool interactions, tapping opponents, creatures and stuff like that, and just making the space to go through. One of the interactions that I really do like, we've got Gingerbrute here, very good uncoloured one that can come in haste, can't be blocked by creatures without haste if you pay the 1. And then we have ways to sort of like the glyph, enchant artifacts, power and toughness then becomes a 5/4. They've got, you know, different ways to do this. Unctus can come in, enters the battlefield up to 1 target artifact becomes a 4/4. We can turn our hasty Gingerbrute into a 4/4, make it unblockable, and get in for some wins as well. So we have lots of really cool things to do in this deck. Cog Wrestler. Ends the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls gets -2, so we can flash that in, shrink it down, potentially save our creature. The network comes in, we get to tap target permanent as a flyer. This is a tricksy deck, very much like what blue does, but not so much on the counter spells. So we're not doing counter spell magic in this mono blue deck. We have cards like Fading Hope that can return creatures, which is good. We might even have to return one of ours. Potentially that's an idea to do as well, to save a creature if we need to. Then you got the Nauticus in there as a 2/, plus it up, creature gets +3, -3, so then becomes a 4/1 beta as well. There's lots of cool artifacts that when I was searching around to put this deck together, I just didn't realise how many there actually was. Lodestone Needle, another flash card, tap up to 1 target artifact or creature, then you get to put 2 stun counters on this, and this I found to be a very, very good card. Tapping down some of those big creatures like the dinosaur, the 3-mana 6/6 that I keep seeing. The name escapes me for that. Someone can put it in the comments. But that turns into a massive beat and we can stun that as well. We have Malcourte's Watcher, Flying Vigilance, nice bit of evasion. When they're about to die, we get to draw a card as well. Cover Technician, Ninjutsu, artifact creature. When it does combat damage to a player, may put an artifact card with mana value less than equal to the damage from your hand onto the battlefield. So we can get in with that damage, and we've got lots of stuff we can put into play with this. Make the Ginger Brute unblockable, then ninjutsuing in the Technician is another way to play this deck and go further with that as well. We do run Spyglass Siren. Not an artifact, but just a very good card because it makes artifacts. So it makes that explore token. Great turn 1 play. Get this down. Map token. Potentially then can just buff it up next turn or another creature later on as well. So very, very good. Last card I want to talk about in this deck is High Speed Hoverbike. Flash flying. Ends the battlefield. Tap up to 1 target creature. And the crew is only 1 for this flyer. So comes in, taps something down. Anything, Spyglass, Ginger Brute, the Disruptor, anything can crew that. And we've got a 2/2 coming in and doing some work for us as well. Land base, very simple for this one. 20 islands, 2 Hidden Cataract. I think this is a good addition to it. Good budget card. Has the Discover 4, so anything with mana value 4 or less, cast it without paying its mana cost. And that is pretty simple for this deck to do. We should definitely hit something, wouldn't you say? So let's look at the upgrades for this mono blue aggro deck. We have a few now. Very important, very good upgrades for this are the lands. Now, we're an artifact deck, so Mishra's Foundry just works very well for this. Makes a 2/2 artifact worker token. More ways to attack in. And then Mirix as well, create a 1/1 colourless might as well. So Toxic, another way to win. But these two make, more ways to amass the field. So very good to have any number of these, taking out the islands and putting these in there. I still would keep Hidden Cataract in there. Maybe you could drop it to 1 and just, drop some of the islands. But I feel like Hidden Cataract is still a very good card. Last one would add her in, but it would tap for the blue, which is Ottawa Soaring City. Just the channel lands are just all really good, and this is a staple in any blue decks. Now, more cards to upgrade. So High Speed Hoverbike is very good, but the upgrade probably to that is Subterranean Schooner. You could probably keep a portion of High Speed in there, maybe keep 1 in there, and maybe drop some of the something else in there. The Cogwork Wrestler is probably one that I would drop out. The -2 sometimes very good, but late game it's not great, but it still works in this sort of deck, as it is at the moment. But there's definitely some good cards to upgrade them with, like Subterranean Schooner, more Explore. The crew is only 1 as well, so very easy to crew in this deck. And Surge Engine is just, can be a win con in itself. This is a very, very good card to put into deck, so I would definitely try to get Surge Engine in there as well. Unctus, we could have a second Unctus in there. Blue creature you control of when this creature becomes tapped, draw a card, discard a card. Plenty of blue creatures in there to get that card drawing action going. So I feel like a number of these, or 2 of these, would be decent for the deck as well. Other artifact creatures you control get +1/1 as well. So automatic bump for all of our creatures. So these to me are very, very good upgrades. See what you have of these upgrades once you've played it as it is, or if you want to go straight in with the upgrades, and then give the mono blue a go and take down some of those decks. Next deck is a Gruul Prowess deck, so very aggressive. I couldn't do, budget it without some sort of extra red deck in there. This just splashes green. It splashes green for the giant growth because it's just really good. Instant speed +3/3. Then Royal Treatment as well. Give our creature hexproof and create a royal token, so you get +1/1 and gives it a ward 1 as well. So, a splash of green in this Gruul Prowess deck. Prowess is cards like Monastery Swiftspear that I'm sure you all know about, unless you're a new player, beginner player here that's looking for some new decks to play. This Prowess, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gives it a buff, gives it +1/1 every time you cast one of those spells, and obviously has haste as well. We have more cards like Dwarven Force Chanter, Ward, Prowess, bit harder to remove, but a great 2-mana spell for this. Kenra, Spell Spear, Trample Prowess, we can flip it over to give it double Prowess, Trample and Ward. So some very good creatures in here, and one that doesn't have prowess but that can get a trigger from instants and sorceries, as we do run a fair few, is this Dwarf Wizard Electrostatic Infantry that can just get really big. And what's great about this one is that it has trample, so it gets bigger. The counters stay on this, unlike the prowess card, so it does make a difference. We have 16 creatures, 23 non-creature spells. We dropped to 21 lands for this one because we got a slow, 1.6, very low average there. And we have a lot of low mana spells. So ways to pump up: Dreadmore's Ire, End of turn, target attacking creature +2/2 and trample. I spoke about the previous creature. Trample is very good, especially when, you know, putting there those little 1/1 blockers in front of it and we just go over the top at instant speed. And when it deals damage to a player, destroy target artifact they control. So has that added little bonus. More pumpage in Monstrous Rage, +2/0, gets that 1/1, gives it trample as well by putting the little roll token on there. Very good. Giant Growth that I spoke about, raw treatment, way to protect and get another +1/1 bump as well. This deck really is flash in the pack. You literally just attack in and you can win in sometimes 1 or 2 attacks. Creatures get so big, they think they're just going to leave it. They take the chance, then all of a sudden you're whacking all these on at instant speeds and they just can't do anything about it. You've got the protection spell ready in case they do try to remove it. It's just really cool. We then have removal, or, you know, to the dome is Lightning Strike, 4 of these straight in there. And then Frenzy that I spoke about, that is very good. Getting rid of creatures before they can block. Very good Witch Talker Frenzy, and the spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature that attacks. So you attack in with 2 or 3, and then obviously this will bring the cost of this down. This is a very good aggressive deck. You probably play, if you're playing, even if you're not, you know about mono red. So this just literally splashes the green in for these 2 colours, which I think does add a lot. Now we have Rugged Highlands and 5 forests in there because you don't want to be without. You might be able to swap these around a little bit. We don't want too many tapped lands because, you know, we're very low to the ground. We want to be doing the attacks early. We're not really late game players with this deck. You are winning quick and winning early. So you'll get definitely some quick gains with this, you know, maybe unlike some of the other decks where this will be quick wins, quick losses. That's the way it will go with this deck. But if we have a look at the sideboard, we're keeping the land base as it was. You know, you might think there's too much greener, but it's because we're adding our upgrade of Questing Druid. So we can play Seek the Best, exiling cards, may play those cards, which is a good for 2 mana. But then it has the creature version to play for the green whenever you cast a spell that's white, blue, black or red. Now obviously we just have red, but we have a lot of red. We're only splashing green, so this can really build up and put a lot of counters on. And then when you've got cards that can give it trample like we do, this can become another big beater as well. Urabrask Forge is a card that I love for this deck, so if you've got any number of these put in there, it just adds to the aggressiveness. These tokens can come in, they have trample, they have haste, so you can definitely use your bump creature, you know, your bump spells like Monstrous Rage and Giant Growth on these and get even further damage in. And this is just a recurring threat as well. Upgrading the lands, Copperline Gorge and the Compulsion Forest is a good way to upgrade them, taking out the basic forest and the Rugged Highlands. This one will come in, it will do damage to you, but we're looking to win early, so this is a great upgrade straight away for the Highlands, and then can add in more Copperline Gorge just so you don't, you know, miss the green version of that and taking out some of those forests potentially as well, so it still gives you more red as well. But yeah, this deck is really cool, really fun and very explosive, so if that's your type of deck, definitely give it a try. The final 0 rare deck, and I hope you're still at the end. If you are, let me know in the comments, and big thumbs up to yourself as well for doing that. I really do appreciate it if you're watching all the video. This is a blue-white aggro deck, very much like you know, the previous decks. We like aggro decks. When you're playing mid-range in budget with 0 rares, it's very hard to compete with them, but you want to get in quick and win quick, and this is what this deck will try to do as well. 18 creatures, 20 non-creatures, a very low CMC of 1.6 as well, and we have 22 lands in this deck as well. So it's another way, another type of deck that you're playing creatures and pumping up and making creatures, you know, just hard to deal with, and they can get in for some big swings. So we'll look at the creatures to start off with. We have Illuminator Virtuoso, that has double strike. When it becomes a target spell, you get a Connive. So Connive is draw a card, discard a card. If you discarded a non-land card, gets a 1/1 counter. And it doesn't take much of these to build up, and then it becomes a big double striking creature, and it's really good. You know, this deck has ways to protect as well. So we're protecting creatures in this with cards like Shore Up, Hexproof, Slip Back as well, phasing creatures out if we need to. So we need to protect some of our creatures. A card, next one in, is Twin Blade Gaze, another card with double strike. So you can see the theme of this. It does have a disturb cost where we can enchant a creature to give it double strike as well. But this is just another good one to load up and get that double damage in if we can with the deck. Now, Go Shinty, we're not running any other shrine other than this. I just found it's really good. Once you can start getting the counters on this, it's just annoying when you just start milling that one card each turn to opponent. You're messing with their deck unless they are a graveyard deck. And this is the Evasion of Flying. So 2 mana, 0/4, which helps against like the mono rares, anything, you know, early blockers. So this is a good early blocker, why it's in there as well for the big toughness stat. And then we can build it up, and then it can just fly over the top, and we just annoy them by milling the odd card here and there as well. We also then have, where's our next creature? There is Storm Chaser Drake. When this becomes a target spell, you get to draw a card. Now, the target spells that we do have in here, we've got like Homestead, Courage, 1/1 counter, Vigilance, Flashback, everything like that. We've got Lauren's Escape, which is another way to protect. Hexproof, Indestructible against Wraths. We can protect one of our creatures with that. We've got Combat Research. Chart the single creature. When it does combat damage, player draw a card. As long as the enchanted creature is legendary, it gets +1/1 and ward 1 as well. Now the Ghost Shinty is legendary, so we get to do that there. We've also got Wrath, Weatherspout Stalwart, that is legendary. Whenever you cast an instant source spell, tap 2 untapped creatures, draw a card. Also has that buff as well, so another way to give our creatures +1/1 and vigilance to end of turn. Now what goes with legendary creatures very well as well is Gold Forged Thoptrix, because it gives each legendary permanent ward 2. So we can get these wards onto the creatures, make them very hard to remove by single spot removal. Great flyer as well, flying, lifelink, 1/3, good one to build up and then, you know, help against those aggro decks, and this will, you know, has that certain amount of life gain. So this is a very good, another synergistic deck, which is what I look for when I'm building the budget decks. Water Wings, a little instant speed, Trixie Quire. Until end of turn, target creature you control has base power and toughness 4/4 and gains flying and hexproof. More protection, more what we need. We got this is what blue does, is Trixie, and this is what this deck is all about. We can give something flying and hexproof that didn't have it. Maybe the Virtuoso becomes a double strike flying hexproof massive creature. We got the counters on it. We maybe got like a security bypass, or you know, something on there, security bypass. As long as enchanted creatures attack alone, it can't be blocked, so we can just get through with that damage. And then we have the protection up for that. I do love this deck. You know I'm a blue mage, so this is a deck that I'm going to do. And when creature deals combat damage, can't be blocked. If it can't be removed as well, we get to connive as well with this deck. So this deck, lots of synergistic moves. We're doing lots of protection, lots of Trixie thing, attacking, getting through with unblockable creatures, building them up. This is what this deck is all about. Land base, simple, Tranquil Coves, a couple of them, a couple of Skybridge Towers, because there's a bit of card draw in that one, and then lots of basics. But let's look how we're going to upgrade this. And upgrading this, a lot is in the lands. So, you know, you want that protection. So when you're playing the towers and the cove, you might not be able to keep up the protection sometimes. Which is why we go 2 and 2 and more basics from the start, because you really want the protection spells to protect your creatures. So by adding in cards like Seachrome Coast, a Darker Waste and stuff like that, it gives you the help of maybe potentially having those lands open and getting, you know, other stuff into play. And then we have both the channel cards, Iganju for removal, Otawara to bounce and flip and do everything like that. Now, other upgrades for the deck: good removal, Get Lost, destroy target creature, gets rid of enchantments and planeswalkers. This is just a really good card, so, you know, really good removal to come in there. I do like it. Some people don't, because it gives the opponent explore abilities, but I still think it's a very good card. We added more protection with Skrilev. Choose a creature, another target creature against toxic, but all important, it gives it hexproof from that colour, and it can't be blocked by creatures of that colour. So playing against any mono colour decks, this is just going to be really, really good. Last creature in there as well is Denic Pious Apprentice. Cards and Graves can't be targeted abilities, but its lifelink has Disturb as well. So this comes in there, does some work. Just a really good creature to come in there, put abilities on as well, because it has lifelink and helps against cards in graveyard decks as well. So yeah, this is the blue-white aggro deck, a very good fun deck that I really do enjoy. And that is the 5 zero rare decks. I've got into depth of them a lot today, so a bit longer than my normal video, so I must admit, just looking at the time. So I hope you're still here at the end. I really do appreciate that. Let me know which one of these decks you're going to play. If you want to play them in paper, check out my sponsors. If you want to take them to your FNM, you can get all the cards from Cardmarket, largest marketplace in the world. Go and check them out. It helps me out as well. And then if you want to take it a bit further, become a Total MTG Patreon. If you love all these, you get all these deck lists early and everything like that. Go and become one of them. It really does help out very much. So you lot take care, and I'll see you on the next video.